Have you ever stopped to think that maybe what's stopping you from achieving what you want most isn't fear or lack of ability, but the illusion that you need to fight against everything and everyone? That's right. The story of Siddhartha Gautama, or as the world came to know him, Buddha, is one of the most counterintuitive and powerful narratives that exist. He didn't reach enlightenment through weapons, nor by fleeing, not even by resistance. He did it with something many people dismiss: silence, compassion, and, believe it or not, by accepting his own fear. While most believe that success comes from brute force, from relentless struggle, Siddhartha did the opposite. He stayed, seated, motionless. While demons roared, temptations danced, and doubts screamed. And in that dark scenario, he did the unthinkable. He welcomed it all with serenity. Sounds strange, right? After all, who in their right mind would face the most terrifying forces of the universe without moving a muscle? But that's exactly how he became the Buddha. Not through confrontation, but through understanding. Not through war, but through presence. And the most incredible thing is that this same path is available to you. Yes, to you, who might be fighting your own demons right now. Anxiety, fear, self-sabotage, that urge to give up along the way. What if I told you there's a way to win without fighting? That the real victory is where you don't destroy the enemy, but dissolve the very need to fight. It's provocative, I know. But that's exactly what you're about to discover as we dive together into this ancient and yet so current journey, the story of Buddha's awakening. Get ready, because what comes next isn't just a historical narrative, it's a mirror, an invitation for you to look directly at the forces that are trying to paralyze you today. And even more, a proposition to learn from Buddha himself how to transform these forces into silent teachers that, instead of destroying you, elevate you. Shall we go together? On that silent night, when the world quiets down and only thoughts echo, Siddhartha Gautama sat still beneath the sacred fig tree. It wasn't just any silence, but the kind that comes right before chaos. Mara, the Lord of Illusion, approached, with his dark army, bringing storms, thunder, and the suffocating weight of fear. Here's something to notice. How many of us, at the slightest sign of adversity, turn back immediately? Siddhartha, however, stayed. His posture invites us to reflect on how often we give up before even trying, believing that pain and doubt are real and absolute. Fear is sly, subtle, like a mist that quietly spreads, and that was exactly the mist Mara used as his weapon. As the gusts of wind howled, trees twisted and shadows took grotesque forms, Siddhartha kept his eyes closed. This choice is fascinating because it reveals a powerful lesson. Not every battle is won with movement, shouting, or a sword. Sometimes it's precisely stillness that reveals true strength. Ever thought about that? How many times have you reacted impulsively when perhaps the wisest thing would have been to just stay still? Siddhartha remained, not because he didn't feel fear, but because he recognized it as part of Mara's carefully crafted illusion. Fear only has power when we blindly believe in it. Mara left no stone unturned. He created visions of failure, rejection, and defeat. He whispered doubts, stirred up old guilts, and fueled the desire to give up. This scene, although mystical, is profoundly human. Who hasn't been ambushed by self-destructive thoughts in the dead of night, when there's no audience to maintain? Appearances? Siddhartha, at that moment, faced the same thing any of us do: the temptation to give up, to abandon the search, to surrender to the illusory comfort of not moving forward. But he stayed, and by staying, he taught that real courage isn't the absence of fear, but the firm decision not to be ruled by it. The curious thing is that Mara represents what always lurks within us, that inner saboteur, the voice that says, "It won't work," or "This isn't for you." Siddhartha, like a silent master, teaches us that this voice exists and always will, but it doesn't have to dictate our path. Imagine applying this to your life. When fear arises, not denying it, but simply observing it, understanding it and choosing to keep going anyway, like looking into a distorted mirror and deciding not to believe in the image you see. That's exactly what Siddhartha did, with closed eyes and an open heart. And here's what's fascinating. Even in the face of all Mara's fury, Siddhartha used no words, no rational arguments. He just stayed motionless, like an unshakable rock in the middle of the storm. This reveals something precious about the nature of spiritual resilience. It's not about shouting louder than the chaos, but about becoming so silent that chaos has nowhere to cling. Have you ever, in a conflict, simply taken a deep breath and remained silent instead of reacting impulsively? It's hard, I know, but transformative. Siddhartha showed us it's possible. As the demonic forces multiplied, what was really at stake wasn't an epic external battle, but an inner duel. Siddhartha against his own weaknesses, doubts, and desires to run away. Mara embodied what we'd now call self-sabotage, that force that appears at decisive moments when we're about to achieve something great. Have you noticed how sometimes, when everything seems to be aligning, an inexplicable force tries to pull you back? Siddhartha experienced this at its most extreme and chose not to retreat. That's the real teaching hidden behind the legend. And then when everything seemed suffocating, when the terror seemed unbearable, Siddhartha did what few would. He simply stayed. He didn't look for shortcuts, didn't cry out for divine help, didn't try to eliminate Mara. He just understood that the pain, that fear, were temporary, like waves breaking on the shore and soon dissolving. Do you realize how applicable this is to your life? When you understand that fear is a wave and not the ocean, you'll start navigating with much more serenity. Siddhartha understood this that night, but there was still one more test ahead. After fear failed to shake Siddhartha, Mara changed his strategy, and what a strategy! He sent his 3 daughters, personifications of desire, seduction, and pleasure. The scene, almost cinematic, was hypnotically beautiful. Fluid dances, enchanting smiles, and promises of a life filled with pleasures and worldly glories. It's curious to realize that in real life, it's often not fear that paralyzes us, but the comfortable seduction of desire. Who hasn't been tempted by the seemingly easier path? Siddhartha, however, remained serene, like someone who already knows that not every invitation needs to be accepted. In fact, many shouldn't be. Mara's daughters represented what we all face daily: the desire for status, money, power, recognition. And let's be clear, desire itself isn't a villain. It's part of our nature. The problem is when it starts guiding us, like someone holding the reins of our life. Siddhartha understood this deeply. Instead of repelling these seductive vigors with anger or repression, he simply looked at them with compassion. Imagine applying this to your own life. When a desire arises, instead of feeling guilty or giving in, simply observe it, understand it. It's liberating. The atmosphere grew dense, suffocating like a room without air. Mara's daughters danced with more intensity, promising everything imaginable. It's almost like when someone offers you a tempting promotion that deep down doesn't align with your purpose, or when we fall into the trap of wanting to be admired at any cost. Siddhartha didn't give in. His serenity remained intact, showing that true strength doesn't lie in resisting forcefully, but in welcoming with awareness. This is a valuable key for anyone seeking balance. Neither repress nor surrender, just understand. And here's something interesting. Siddhartha didn't deny the beauty of Mara's daughters, nor did he pretend they didn't exist. He saw, them as they were without getting confused. That's emotional maturity. How many times do we confuse desire with need? We think we need that promotion, that car, that relationship, when, in truth, we're just trying to fill an inner void. Siddhartha saw this clearly, and that's why he didn't fall into the trap. This teaching is pure gold. A recognized desire loses its strength. A repressed desire, on the other hand, only grows. As Mara's daughters continued their attempts, Siddhartha remained as someone who watches a storm from the window, sees the lightning, hears the thunder, but knows he's safe. This state of full presence is what many today call mindfulness, but which Siddhartha practiced over 2 millennia ago. The great insight here is to understand that when faced with desire, there's no need to run away, nor to feel guilty, but simply to be present, conscious, attentive. A practical example: when you feel the urge to buy something impulsively, breathe, observe the feeling, and ask, why do I really want this? The dance is stopped, the promises withered, and Mara's daughters realized that there was no room for their illusions. Siddhartha, by neither opposing nor surrendering, simply dissolved their power. This is a teaching few pass on. Desire loses its strength not when it's fought, but when it's understood. The compassion Siddhartha showed, even towards the temptations, is what truly dissolved the illusion. Have you ever thought about looking at your desires with compassion instead of guilt or disdain? That changes everything. And above all, it changes how you lead your life. And so once again, Siddhartha proved that the path to enlightenment isn't made of violent battles, but of acceptance and awareness. Mara failed again, but like every master of illusion, he still had one more card up his sleeve. If fear and desire weren't enough to break Siddhartha's determination, perhaps open violence would be. After all, when seduction fails, many resort to brute force, and that was exactly what was coming next. After fear, desire, and violence, there was still one last force to be faced: silence itself. But here, unlike what many think, silence wasn't emptiness nor a mission. It was a shield, a conscious choice. Siddhartha, surrounded by grotesque entities and threatening shadows, didn't utter a single word. And that wasn't weakness, but the highest manifestation of his inner strength. Have you ever reflected on how many times silence is the most powerful answer? It doesn't fuel conflict. It doesn't amplify illusion. It simply dissolves what doesn't deserve to be fed. While the demons howled and the shadows tried to invade his mind, Siddhartha sank deeper and deeper within himself. There was no physical resistance, no screams, no desperate prayers, only the full acceptance of reality as it is, raw, complex, sometimes painful, but always transient. This is a teaching that few manage to absorb. Accepting doesn't mean agreeing, but understanding and embracing. Like someone who, facing the rain, doesn't curse the drops, but simply opens the umbrella and keeps walking. In the midst of that dark scenario, Siddhartha realized what many take a lifetime to understand. The root of suffering doesn't lie in the external world, but within us, in attachment and ignorance. It's like someone trying to control the ocean without realizing it's much easier to learn how to swim. This insight changed everything. He saw that attachment to illusions, desires, and the images of I and mine are the real chains that keep us trapped in suffering. And by realizing this, he let the chains fall, silently, one by one. And notice this: Siddhartha didn't hate the demons, didn't expel them, didn't destroy them. On the contrary, his compassion extended even to them. That's an extraordinary greatness. He understood that even the grotesque entities tormenting him were trapped in the same web of illusion that holds most beings. Have you thought about applying this in your daily life? When someone hurts you, instead of responding with hatred, realizing that that person is also trapped in their own pain, in their own ignorance. It's a difficult exercise, but it transforms relationships profoundly. That dense and absolute silence became a theater of transcendence. That scenario, which had been a stage of threats and torments, now turned into the space where true wisdom flourished. Siddhartha no longer needed to fight, because he understood that the most important battle wasn't against Mara or the demons, but against the illusion itself. And that battle was won not with swords, but with the silence of the mind and the openness of the heart. Quite a lesson, isn't it? After all, how much noise do we make trying to solve problems that would probably dissolve in the silence of acceptance? And here's a precious detail. Siddhartha's silence wasn't empty, but full of presence. Many times we confuse silence with absence, but true spiritual silence is full of life, consciousness, love. It's like the pause between the notes of a song. It's what gives meaning to the melody. Siddhartha was there, fully aware, fully loving, fully present. This kind of silence can be cultivated by any of us, whether through meditation, a solitary walk, or simply by taking a deep breath before reacting to a difficult situation. And so, enveloped in this transformative silence, Siddhartha was about to take the final step toward complete awakening. But Mara, tireless in his mission, still had one last move: to challenge not Siddhartha's body nor his mind, but his very spiritual identity, as if saying, "Are you really sure you deserve this enlightenment?" And it's at this point, when we're tested about who we believe we are, that the greatest transformations happen. And then, at the peak of the confrontation, when everything seemed exhausted, Mara made his last and most cunning move. He no longer attacked with fear, desire, or violence, but with doubt. Who are you to attain enlightenment? What proof do you have that you are worthy? This question, mind you, is universal. How many times, right at the moment of achieving something great, does that inner voice arise asking, "Do I really deserve this?" Siddhartha, however, remained unshaken. He didn't need to justify himself with words or engage in philosophical arguments. He simply extended his right hand and touched the earth silently and solemnly. That gesture, seemingly simple, carries immeasurable depth. By touching the earth, Siddhartha invoked it as the witness of all his past lives, of his countless acts of compassion, sacrifice, and pursuit of truth. The earth, as if awakening gently from a long sleep, trembled. The darkness began to dissipate. See how powerful this is. He didn't need to prove anything to anyone. He simply recognized who he was. This is a precious teaching. True validation never comes from outside, but from a deep certainty rooted in who we've become. Mara, upon seeing that gesture, realized that his last attempt had failed. The darkness had nowhere left to hide because Siddhartha's inner light had expanded beyond any shadow. This moment marks a turning point not only in the spiritual history of humanity, but also in our own understanding of victory. True victory is not about defeating the enemy, but about transcending the need to fight. Siddhartha didn't defeat Mara. He simply rose above the illusions Mara represented. A silent victory, yet absolute. By touching the earth, Siddhartha did not claim a throne, personal glory, or even spiritual status. He simply affirmed his connection with all that exists. This is the essence of awakening, realizing that we are not separate from life, but an expression of it. Have you ever thought about that? That you, me, all of us are like leaves of the same tree. This recognition dissolves arrogance, selfishness, and above all, fear. Siddhartha, at that moment, became not an isolated hero, but one with the universe itself. And it's curious to notice that, instead of celebrating his victory with fireworks and festivals, Siddhartha remained serene, calm, like someone who understands. That the most important thing is not personal glory, but the silent impact of having become a beacon for others. This is a rare lesson in today's world, where many seek immediate recognition. Siddhartha's path invites us to reflect. Are our achievements meant to feed the ego or to serve the world? Enlightenment, he showed us, is a call to serve, not a trophy to display. Mara disappeared, the darkness vanished, and the sky opened in clarity and peace. The long-awaited moment had finally arrived, complete enlightenment. But notice something curious. Siddhartha didn't stand up, didn't proclaim victories, nor did he immediately gather followers. He simply remained there, in deep silence and compassion. This is the great secret. Enlightenment is not an end, but a new beginning. As if saying, now that I am awakened, it's time to help others awaken too. And that's exactly what he did, gathering disciples and spreading his teaching across the world. And so, the man who faced demons, desires, and doubts did not become a warrior, but a compassionate master. His victory was not just personal, but a gift for all humanity. And this story, so ancient yet so current, invites us to reflect. What will we do when faced with our own Maras? How will we react when fear, desire, or doubt knock on our door? Perhaps, just like Siddhartha, we can simply take a deep breath, touch our own inner earth, and move forward. Now tell me, after hearing this story, do you still think you need to fight and with everything to win, or can you choose a different path? Like Buddha, silent, conscious, compassionate. The truth is, your demons, fear, anxiety, doubt, they can be overcome, but not by fighting. Instead, by letting go, by understanding, by choosing peace over struggle. So, I ask you, what will you choose right now, to keep battling or to breathe, observe, and transform? If this message touched you, don't keep it just for yourself. Share it, leave a comment, tell me what impacted you the most, and, of course, subscribe to this channel and turn on notification so you don't miss any new content that doesn't just inform, but awakens. Let's keep walking this path together.